Hey one, hey all, welcome to Monday, welcome to Countdown Day. And last week we looked at the top 10 Transformers that most people like, but you, the voter, do not. Well, we're kind of flipping the script this week. Voters were asked, what is a Transformer that is basically universally panned? People do not like this at all. But you sure do. That'll be our focus this time around in the latest GotBot Counts Down. Hey one, hey all, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, please like, comment, share, of course subscribe, and while you are at it, light 'em up, baby. Hit that notification bell, please. It helps me out a ton. It lets you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, all the groups that I'm either a mod or an admin for, as well as all of my social media links. All of that's in the description down below. Also in the description down below, and if you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link, check us out on Patreon, see what we have to offer to you through spring, or of course hit the join button at any given time and become a channel member. So like I said, this is the top 10 Transformers that most people really don't like, but you do like. And it's kind of flipping the script on last week's. Last week's were ones that people love, but you just don't understand what the big deal is. You don't like it, you didn't get it. And it was very subjective. And some people said, no way, my favorite is this or my favorite is that, and it appeared on the list. This one, much like that one, is going to be very subjective. There will definitely be ones here where you'll say, oh yeah, I don't understand why anybody likes that. There may be ones here where you will question and say, wait, do people actually not like that one? And there will be ones where you will say, man, I get it, I can't stand that thing. And there'll be ones where you'll say, I can't stand it, it's the worst Transformer in my collection. How does anybody like it at all? But some voters do. It is a wild and wacky one. Besides the honorable mentions in the list, stick around at the end because there were a ton that got votes. So, remember, this is the top 10 Transformers, very subjective, the top 10 Transformers that are generally disliked by the fandom, but you really enjoy them. And we begin with the honorable mentions. They include the Kingdom Arc, which a lot of people said that there were some tolerance issues and stuff with, but at the same time, it gives us the Arc, and it gives us a version of the last Autobot. I get the appeal. Gamer Edition Barricade. I think we would all say it's not necessarily a great Transformer. I mean, a lot of articulation limits, but man, what a cool look. What a great transformation. So I understand that one as well. Vector Prime, the Legacy Vector Prime has been somewhat panned, but those that like it seem to really like it. Those that dislike it seem to really dislike it. Some say it can't hold a candle to the original. The one thing that I give the new one over the original is that the new one has a bicep joint. If the original had a bicep joint, then I would say the same thing. But without the bicep joint, or the thigh joint for that matter, the thigh swivel for that matter, I don't think the original has a thigh swivel. I haven't taken him down in a while. But with, taking out the articulation limits, yes, I think the original's better. But if you want something better articulated, then the new one's better. So I get the dichotomy there, so to speak. And last but not least, Legacy Crankcase. People say, man, my crankcase's tolerance is great. I really enjoy it. We all know that my crankcase, as well as my Medic's, has zero friction in the chest. Nothing holds that in place whatsoever. But other people say their chest holds just fine. So the honorable mentions again, very quickly, the Arc, Gamer Edition Barricade, Vector Prime, and Crankcase. Generally not popular with the fans, but liked by the voters enough that they were able to appear on the honorable mentions. None of them made the actual list. So who did, what did? We're going to kick things off with number 10 first. Coming in at number 10 is one that kind of surprised me because it's 86 Bumblebee. I thought that 86 Bumblebee in general by the fandom was being held in high regard. I thought most fans loved this guy and thought he was fantastic. But, I mean, the voters are the voters. Those that voted for him must have heard a lot of gripes and complaints about 86B, but love it despite that. The gripes that were pointed out were complaints that people made in reference to his price for something this small, and in reference to, and I've referenced this, the incorrect shape of the chest and the incorrect coloration of the windows. Some people say, no, that chest being square is exactly how the cartoon looked. It's not, but cool if you think so and you're happy with it. So while it's on the list, I'm a little bit baffled because I thought that those that dislike this mold were actually the minority rather than the majority. Bit of a weird one, but nevertheless, it took the number 10 slot. 9 is also going to be a weird one at the bottom of the list because 9 is technically not this guy. It is actually G1 Wheelie. Now, usually when I put up the question, I will say interpret it however it is you interpret it. If I want it to be specific, I will be specific in the question. I think those that voted for Wheelie, G1 Wheelie, voted for the character on the cartoon and said a lot of people don't like the character, but you know what? I didn't mind him. But in the question this week, I specifically said Transformers figure. I specified figure. Therefore, those that voted for G1 Wheelie, I have to defer to the question. They must have been voting for the G1 Wheelie figure. I don't have that. The closest I got is the Studio Series. Yeah, G1 Wheelie with his big cap hood thing up over his eyes, his weird long orangey legs. A lot of people don't like it, but I guess a few fans, a few voters did and said, hey, G1 Wheelie, he was a neat little lad, even if everybody hates him. And he takes the number 9 slot. Coming in at number 8, and I'm really happy this guy made the list, it's Quake. Legacy Quake. And those that voted for him, this is one of those I get. Because I actually really like Quake. And I know that a lot of people panned it. They said, no, Quake's no good. I don't like the way his legs transform. It's too hard for me. I don't like the look of the tank. It looks unfinished. And while I will admit that I do think that, you know, raising the turtle a little bit would have been nice. Honestly, the main part of the tank, if you look at the G1, it looks like the G1. I'm sorry, if you think that this looks unfinished, then you must think the G1 also looks unfinished. This guy's not perfect. Don't get me wrong. I wish that the tank was finished, but I mean, it's G1 accurate, so it is what it is. I love the leg transformation. It's so involved, but it's so simplistic. You're just putting a joint into an L shape. I love the fact that with his proper Target Masters, though I have replaced them with Battle Masters, with his proper Target Masters, everything in package, the guy is a huge, hefty 91 grams of plastic. He has little to no hollowness. I mean, a little bit in the forearm, well, the bottom of the forearm, but that's it. An involved transformation, a ton of heft, nice paint, eye-popping colors. I get why this guy is liked by the voters. I like him too. But I also understand that among the masses of the fans, he is deemed not very popular and not very good. I side with the voters this time. Quake. A version of Quake, a legacy Quake that most people don't like, but voters do, takes the number 8 slot. Now I find 7 to be a very interesting one because I think it's more than being a mass disliked character, or not character, figure, or mold if you prefer. I think that this is a case of those that like this mold really like it, and those that don't like this mold really don't like it. And I don't think there's a lot of middle road for Earthrise Starscream. So I side on the side that don't really like this. I get that it has a cool, animation accurate Earth alt mode, but the robot fails in a lot of ways. No wrist articulation. We got, I don't want to say hollowness through the body, but we got these gaps here on the side. No waist swivel. All of this here on the side of the foot, all of that's wrong. The toes, that's wrong. All of that's wrong. So like, I see the issues here. I wildly prefer the Siege personally. And there are people in the fandom, a segment of the population, probably half of them, that side with me and say, yeah, it's not great. And you know what? The reuse that they did for 86, even with the throne, was wildly overpriced because this is a Voyager. There's no way that throne added enough value to be a leader. And I think that that's what really hurt the 86. Some people said that they like different colorations of this more than Starscream, so they don't necessarily like the Starscream iteration of this mold, but they like the look, for example, of the Skywarp version of the mold. Or, like me, while I don't like it for the main trio, I do like this mold for the cone heads. So I understand the kind of two-sided nature here, and those that voted for this guy must feel like that a lot of people complain about this mold. But to them, it is the ideal in modern day Seeker, mainline Seeker. Yeah, if you like it, I get it. You like it. If you don't like it, I understand. It's not my favorite either. This guy, a lot of debate around him. Maybe there's a separate question here about most debated molds. I don't know. This is one of those that I'm surprised made the list because I don't feel like it's universally panned and hated, even despite its numerous weaknesses. If anything, I feel the opposite. I feel like a lot of people like it. Nevertheless, who am I to argue with the fans? At the number 7 slot, they put Starscream as most hated Transformers figure, but one that they love. Shockingly, coming in at number 6, we have Skullgrin. So Quake already appeared on the list. Skullgrin is the original use of that mold, we'll say. And the people that voted for Skullgrin said the same things. One, he doesn't have an exterior pretender shell. Don't do pretenders if you're not going to do the shell. I'm willing to bet that those people have never worked in manufacturing and pricing and probably don't understand how much space that would take on mold plates and how many people in the fandom actually wouldn't want a static immobile shell that can't really do anything. It would end up going thrown to the side and would add price to a deluxe and probably make it leader, even commander, because of how much space on a mold plate a pretender shell needs to take up. That aside, other people said that they found the transformation to be difficult. I'm not sure how you're finding it difficult. I think it's nice and involved and robust for a deluxe, but to each their own. And this one I do understand. A lot of people said they don't like the resulting Cybertronian tank alt mode because the treads are just too small on the back. What's keeping up the front? And while I agree with you, I'm also okay with it for Skullgrin because have you ever seen the G1 inner robot when it turns into a tank? There are only treads on the back. It's never had treads on the front. So it's true to it. Whether you like that or not is a different story. Yeah, Skullgrin. I love the guy. But I know he's shell-formed, and I know a lot of people gave him a bad name, and I know a lot of people don't like him. But enough fans, enough voters like him, that Skullgrin was able to still land at the number 6 slot. And now a hush falls over the crowd because we've reached the ever-coveted, ever-popular halfway mark. And honestly, today at the halfway mark, I expected this guy to be at the tippy-top number 1, and he's not. Because this one is one that I know for a fact has a reputation for being hated by the masses, even though I love it. And when I done a review of it, I scored it pretty high. It is Kingdom Tracks. Now, I get the disdain here. A lot of people have encountered, apparently, several issues with this guy. Because I've heard complaints of the side of the leg and the foot just having no friction into the side. I've heard complaints of the roof cracking. I've heard complaints of the hips being super loose. Mine doesn't really have any of that. My Road Rage has ever so slightly loose side of her thigh, but my ankles are fine. He stands up fine. He poses fine. My experience with this mold has been nothing but really good, really positive, very elegant. I love the robot. I love the transformation. But I also understand that I, like the voters, are in the minority. Yes, I thought this guy was going to be number 1. Kind of universally hated by the masses, Kingdom Tracks is still liked by enough of the fans, by a segment of the fans, that he was able to land at the number 5 slot. Coming in number 4, we go back to Power of the Primes and Rodimus Prime. Those that voted for this guy said, I acknowledge that the Kingdom is the superior Rodimus Prime in terms of quality, in terms of size, in terms of mass, in terms of accessories. But they will say that they love this one for a few reasons. One, they said, if you just take the robot by itself, it makes a great hot rod, but you know what? Because of its size at pretty much a slightly small Voyager, and looking as G1 accurate as it does, it makes a great Rodimus, leaving all of this as a potential base. And I did do a video years ago now where I showed the transformation of this into a serviceable base mode. They also said, people that love this said, I get that all of this kind of becomes armor on this guy, so to speak, to give him a bigger body because of the whole evolution gimmick. But they say they love that. Because you can have this gigantic, big Rodimus. It's as if he's bulked up with power armor for battle, and they love that idea. They did not have the issue with the arms that I did, where they don't like to go on and they don't like to tab in well. They didn't mind the articulation limits of the leg kicking forward and back, though I tried to fix mine and it didn't quite work out that well. Nevertheless, he tabs in so many places that even though he's technically in two halves, because I technically cut too much and broke him, honestly, even in robot mode, he's still a solid robot. I get the appeal of this guy, and if the Kingdom Rodimus had never ever happened, he would still be my Rodimus. I never really liked him though, and I always thought that the Rodimus Unicronus version was the superior use of this mold. My biggest issue, besides the little QC stuff, besides the weird looking big version, and besides the weird shoulders that has, it always struck me weird that the cab is a nice, robust red, and all this is a maroon. And when you put it together, this red, to me, really stands out against this maroon. I get what they're doing, Hot Rod being a lighter color than Rodimus being a darker color. I understand it. But I think the all black and purple of Rodimus Unicronus just work better. Nevertheless, a lot of fans nowadays will say, yeah, get this thing out of here. It wasn't good when it came out. The evolution gimmick wasn't great. This is not a good Rodimus. I prefer the newer one. But there's still that segment of the population that stands back and says, whoa, 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 hold on. I get that there's a newer one, but this guy's still the bee's knees. And enough fans like him that he took the number 4 slot. And now we're into the top 3. And at number 3 is one that I think got on this list purely because of aesthetics. It is Legacy Bulkhead. Let's be clear, Legacy Bulkhead is a fantastic mold. Mine also has a couple of upgrade kits on it, courtesy of our buddy Joe. But undoubtedly, the mold is tremendous. Whether you have it for Bulkhead or Breakdown or the upcoming, and I think the upcoming Heatwave is the best use of this mold. But for whatever reason, if you have a version of this mold, then you probably already know that it has a great range of articulation, it's robust, it's solid, and it has a really dynamic, interesting, and involved, yet unique transformation. But it was panned as Bulkhead, and as Breakdown a little bit less, but certainly as Bulkhead, because people looked at it and said, yeah, but it's not Bulkhead. It looks nothing like Bulkhead at all. If it didn't have Bulkhead's Bulkhead on it, from the neck down, I would never in a zillion years guess that this is Bulkhead. And I agree with those people. Neither would I. Doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it failed to live up to being a version of Bulkhead in a lot of people's eyes. And that's why it got panned. That said, there's a segment of the population that'll look at this guy and say, look, he has the correct head, he's green, he's big, he's bulky, he's good enough. Especially since the mold itself is actually, you know, take Bulkhead out of it. Just as a transformer, it's a fantastic transformer. And they're right. I get the gripes. It's not the Bulkhead for me, especially since I have the first edition, courtesy of our buddy Razor Bear. Yeah, I have the first edition. I love that thing. But this is still a really good transformer. And I understand the segment of the population that also thinks it's a really good Bulkhead, even if most of us don't. He takes the number 3 slot. And now we are at the top 2. And you know what? I don't have the top 2. At number 2, we have this. It is the Legacy Prime Arcee. Now, we talked about it previously before. Actually, I used my Road Rocket when we talked about it. And I talked about the issues and all of the issues that my Road Rocket had. But those that voted for Arcee said, look, I get that it's small, too small for the price. I get that a lot of people have had a ton of QC issues with mushroom pegs popping out or the arms just coming off. They're pinned, but they just come off the pins. They said, I haven't encountered any of the QC issues at all. I think she has a great range of motion. I think she has a really clever transformation, and I love the look and the accuracy of the motorcycle mode. People that voted for this said the only kind of bad quality that she has is that her face is definitely a stylized version of Arcee. But to them, everything else is spot on. And she's been given a bad rap. Sure, maybe the face sculpt could have been better, but everything else about her is tremendous. And that's why enough fans voted for this Arcee as a Transformer that is great, even though the fandom hates it, that she was able to land at the number 2 slot. Now this one, the very tippy top, number 1 is the weirdest addition here, I think. And you want to talk about a controversial offering. This one appeared last week. A little bit of a test here for you now. This one appeared last week as number 4. Last week's list was Transformers that are loved by most fans, but you just don't understand why anyone likes it. So it appeared number 4 there. But this week, being a version of a Transformer that most fans hate, but that you love, it appears again at number 1. So I don't really know if this is a Transformer that's loved or hated by most fans. I'm gonna guess, though, that it's probably more fitting if we compare the votes. Probably more people hate it because it only appeared in number 4 on the list of You Like It Anyways. But here, it appears as number 1. Number 1, and it's appeared in a lot of countdowns lately. It's this. Legacy Blitzwing. We all know I did not like this. I can't stand it. It's one of the rare times I sold it. Not because it's bad, but because the math made 0 sense to me. It doesn't have great engineering. It doesn't have a ton of paint. It has articulation limits. To me, when it came to the value proposition of it for a leader class, it made no sense to me. And I got rid of it. I do think it made better sense as Overcharge, even though it's still overcharged because it's not a leader class. It's not worth that. But at least with Overcharge's case, we didn't have other versions of Overcharge besides the G1 mold to compare it to. Now, why do people like it? If it's so universally hated, why do people like it? Why did enough people like it to put it at number 1? Those people that put it at number 1 said it is a perfect robot. I don't find that, but if you do, cool. They said the tank is ideal. Again, it does not look like the show. If you think it does, you need to go back and look at the show because it might be a great tank. It is a great tank, but it's not animation accurate. Doesn't look like the show. Right down to the cockpit that's sticking out being red instead of the blue that it's supposed to be. And then, of course, they admitted that the plane is trash. So those that voted for it said, look, I love the transformation. I adore the look of the robot. I think it's perfect. I think the tank is super strong, but I admit that the plane is the weakest part. Taking the plane out of it, I love everything about it. And that's why they voted for it. And enough fans feel that way that Blitzwing was able to take the number 1 slot for a Transformer that's hated by most, but loved by you. And that's 10 down to 1 once again. Others that had votes, I told you to stick around. There's tons here. Maybe some of yours are here. Core Class Volcanicus, the actual combined mode. Squeeze Play. I thought Squeeze Play was going to make it on the list, to be honest with you, because he had a few votes. Honestly, I like the Squeeze Play. I'm okay with it being the Mind Wipe mold. 86 Sludge. I loved my Sludge, but I know it had a ton of QC issues and is panned. I didn't have them. I got to assume those that voted for it didn't experience the QC issues. Siege Ultra Magnus, Earthrise Ultra Magnus, despite the existence of the 86. HasLab Unicron, even if it is a shell former. Studio Series Jolt, probably overlooked quite a bit. G1 Broadside, Titan's Return Broadside. The Earthrise Paradron Medic. G1 Goldbug. Interesting little vote there. Studio Series Age of Extinction Galvatron, which I think a lot of people looked over as well. Siege Shockwave. I think the problem there that most people have is that it's not a leader class again. They felt like they overpaid for a Voyager. Earthrise Cliff Jumper. Parts forming, right? Makes it unpopular, even though a lot of people do like it. The Netflix Soundwave. Legacy Prime Breakdown, which we talked about Bulkhead earlier. Gamer Edition Sideswipe. I don't really. I guess I see it. It's a bit weird at the ankles, but I don't really know the mold. Rise of the Beast Mainline Optimus Prime. G1 or not G1 original. I guess G1 Rhinox. Kingdom Rhinox. Core Class Beast Machines Cheetor. A lot of people say it's really fun. Cyberverse Optimus Prime. Dark of the Moon Voyager Optimus Prime. MPM Ironhide. I had blocked that trauma out. I hated that thing so bad. So bad. MP9 Rodimus. Didn't even get through the transformation when I reviewed that. It broke at the hip. I wasn't able to get through it. G1 Megatron, Legacy Point Blank. Remember, all of these are ones that most people hate, but that these voters love. Titans Return Fort Max, Nacelle using the Siege mold, 86 Steeljaw, Spy Changers Jazz. There's an interesting one for you. Kingdom Rodimus selects G2 Combat Hero Megatron. Yes, I actually use that as Megaplex. Beast Hunter Skylinks, a deep dive there. Beast Hunter Skylinks. I actually love that. It was offered. I'm so lucky to have it. Starscream wife got it for me, and I got that Skylinks as a Target exclusive during that very small window when Target was in Canada. And I was so happy to finally get a Target exclusive at Target. I missed that store. Energon Optimus Prime, 86 Hot Rod, but I don't agree with that one. I'm sure the people that voted for it done it as an attack on me because they know that I defended your wallet and mine. I don't understand why people keep defending this. And they'll make comparisons of it, and they'll say it's way better than the Titans Return. It's way better than the classics. It should be. Those are deluxes. This was sold as a Voyager. It should have been way better than those. It wasn't. And the fact that you're comparing it to deluxes says that you see it as a deluxe too, even though it's not. You got to compare that thing to Voyagers, baby. But I think a lot of people like it because I don't think a lot of people have made the correct comparisons. You got to remember, you paid a Voyager price for that, not a deluxe price, even though you'll talk about it as a deluxe. What does that tell you? Shard, Combiner Wars Devastator. Actually, I'm keeping mine, but I get the complaints with it. Kingdom Scorponok, Agent Knight, although I think most people love Agent Knight. Legacy Menasor, Combiner Wars Menasor, Legacy Sideburn. Nova Prime, Studio Series Grindor, XTB's Menasor, Earthrise, Ironworks. I actually loved Ironworks, but I get it because it's super parts forming. G1 Ratchet, Mega Steel Granville, Energon Hotshot, KFC's Kingzilla, Toy World's Freedom Leader, what else? Oh, Cybertron Metroplex. And just for good measure to throw one more in there, Animated Snarl. Man, those, and believe it or not, even more. It was a wild round of voting. Some of my favorites were on this list. Some of the ones that I do not like were on this list. It was a wild one. Very subjective. Let me know where your favorites landed or didn't land. Did they make it? Did they not make it? Remember, this is one of the most subjective topics we've ever done, but I'd like to think a unique topic. I appreciate each of you coming by, giving me some of your extremely valuable time. I do know how important it is to you. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link, check us out on Patreon, see what we have to offer to you through spring, or of course, hit the join button at any given time and become a channel member. While you're at it, hit the subscribe button, stick around, have some fun with us here on the channel, and don't forget, not for a moment, not for a second, that you right there, you do make a difference in the world, and I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit, either in the live streams on Thursday nights at the stop motion premieres or the old-fashioned way, right here, inside the videos.